Every day, chat and chart live during the New York session. Here, real traders share the raw truth, their mindset, technical analysis, and execution. This is where real traders show their skill set. Welcome to Tradin TV. This is your stage to shine.
Good morning, guys. How's everybody doing? So let's go over the calendar real quick. I am on a laptop, so I'll be looking at the chat on my phone. Today we just have CAD, employment change, and then we have prelim, UOM, University of Michigan, consumer sentiment. So we'll be watching that at 10 a.m. I'll talk about a trade that I took overnight and why I'm still expecting lower prices on NASDAQ, and then we'll cover Forex as well. So I went short overnight. I had initially put my stop above this swing high here on the 1 hour time frame, because as you guys can see, we had a really big sell-off yesterday after trading up into this fair value gap. I was able to take advantage of a small portion of this. I didn't get to hold for the full move. And then later in the afternoon, PM session, we traded up into that fair value gap. I ended up shorting it down here after we got this rejection. So I shorted here at the rollover at 6 p.m. And I had my stop loss initially up here. After this run lower, though, however, I moved my stop loss here, adjusted it just slightly to reduce some of the risk. But as you guys can see, it stopped me out just by a tiny amount, and then it's moving towards my target. So, you know, I'm a little bit on edge today. That doesn't really feel good, you know, seeing the trade that you planned pan out without you. But, you know, it still feels pretty good understanding which direction the market's trying to go, right? So what led me to my analysis there? You know, I think some people, at least especially in my group, they were trying to lean long, right? Just because we're trading into a bit of a discount. But when the market is very strongly bearish, you're going to see these levels fail. So you're going to see this bullish fair value gap fail. You're going to see possibly the order block fail, and we're maybe going to target down to the swing low if this market continues lower. And the biggest reason why I was leaning short today was because of how we closed yesterday. So you guys can see here that this is a very strong daily closure. All right, we have this daily candle. We closed through the low. So the following day, I'm just expecting a Judas swing. So we have a gap up, right? So we have the closure here, and then it gaps up, going higher to create that upper wick, and now we've already expanded lower. So I'm not going to re-enter this trade. I'm just talking you guys through why I adjusted the stop loss. I probably shouldn't have adjusted the stop loss. That's maybe a mistake on my part. But the thing is, you know, if this market did turn around, right, because it did create this bullish fair value gap at midnight, you know, I didn't want to take a full loss. So this bullish fair value gap was not there at the time of me adjusting the stop loss. But just assume, for example, if this market did turn around, because it is a Friday, right, we may have ran out this low, and then if I took a full stop, that would have felt even worse. So it's totally okay watching this market go without me. Now, if I take a look at like the weekly time frame and the monthly time frame, let's go to the monthly. You know, how many months have we had without taking out a monthly low? It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months in a row. That's just been up only, really. So we have a lot of buy side liquidity below us. And going into the end of the year, like I can't really see any reason to continue higher from where we've traded to. So maybe this is already the yearly high, and then maybe we're going to expect more of a retracement going into the end of the year. How far lower is it going to go? I really don't know. In my opinion, it would make sense to trade back down to this level. So here, right, we have a monthly breaker. So we have this level here, and I'll mark this as blue because we took out this liquidity here. So even if it retraces all the way back down to like 22, you know, does this market all of a sudden turn long-term bearish? No. I mean, I guess it depends on what time frame you're thinking of. But just because it trades down this level does not mean the market's bearish, right? Because we could put in a higher low here and then turn around and continue higher. But that might lead us all the way until, 2026, 2027 possibly. So, some of the people I talk to and some of the people that I respect in the trading space are anticipating that 2026 might be a bearish year. So just because this year was majorly bullish, this could slowly chop lower through all of 2026, maybe down into this monthly breaker, and then we get that continuation higher. But because the market, in my opinion, is very overvalued at the moment, we have a lot of sell-side liquidity that we can target. So one area that really draws my attention are these equal lows down here, all the way at 24K. And if we get a really strong weekly bearish candle here, I'm going to anticipate, maybe a Judas swing to start the week and then try and position myself short for a much larger swing lower. So again, I do not get every single trade right. I think it's very unreasonable for you to think that you're going to get every single trade right. And I try and manage my expectations around that. Okay. I was able to take advantage of this trade yesterday, which I can talk about. So yesterday, you guys know that I do trade in golden candles. So I was long here. I went long ahead of the open. Unfortunately, I got stopped out. But when this market started trading lower, I was assuming that this 4-hour candle was going to print a 4-hour bearish engulfing. So I took a 1-hour loss, but then made up for it on this next 4-hour candle. Okay, trading towards this low. So leading up into that 4-hour bearish engulfing candle, right, we traded up above. We took out the Asian range liquidity towards one standard deviation of the Asian range, and then it just completely collapsed on the open. So this hourly candle here, right, it's a nice little pin bar here. If you went short leading up to the open, so let's say you shorted here, put your stop loss above the hourly high, that's a really great trade. I wasn't anticipating a major sell-off like that, so unfortunately I didn't position myself that way. Maybe you guys saw that Lanto had a massive day, or massive 2 days. This guy made $1 million at one of the prop firms. But yeah, major shout out to him. He obviously knows what he's doing, sized up, and really took advantage of that move. And he just posted on Twitter about him scaling in, right? And that's really where I make a lot of my money, is scaling into trades that are moving in my favor. It's not just, taking one position and exiting at my target. If it starts moving in my direction, I'm trying to scale into that trade as much as I can. So let's say if I was still in this trade and I was awake, let's say at like 4 or 5 a.m., this would have been a scenario where we got a bearish engulfing candle after taking out the swing high. So we have this swing high where my stop was, right? Let's say if I didn't move my stop and then I got this bearish engulfing candle, I would have moved my stop to this level. So I would have moved my stop to this high, right? And then maybe entered another position on this next hourly candle, right? So what does that look like? So let's say if I went short here, I would have put my stop loss above this high. So now my stop on my initial position is less than half our risk. And then I put another 1-hour risk on. And let's say my target is down here, which I don't know if it's going to get there today. But, having a 3R on the initial position and then adding another 6R, right? Instead of you getting 3R on that first position, now you're getting 9R, right? Because I'm able to find an area where I can add into the trade, right? Not add too much risk and really take advantage of scaling into that trade. But unfortunately, I'm not in the trade, so I'm just walking you guys through how I would have managed it had I not been stopped out. So let's go over the dollar index real quick. I honestly wanted to see us trade through this weekly high up here. You guys can see that it didn't. So we're getting a bit of a retracement. Do I think that the dollar is done yet? No, not really. Although we do have some interesting levels in here. So we have this candle here that doesn't have a wick. Right, so there's no wick on the top of this candle, but there's also a candle that's down here that doesn't have a wick. So I don't know. I don't really have a good idea where this market wants to go. just from looking at this higher time frame, this dollar has been chopping all year long. So trading Forex this year has been ultimately difficult for me personally. I'm usually really good with the euro, but only when the market conditions really make sense to me. Right now, it's just been in this much larger consolidation for the better part of a year. Since April, really, this market really hasn't done much, which has made it very difficult to trade. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Throw the laptop. Somebody said throw the laptop. One of my students. Pound A+ trade? No, I don't think it's an A+ trade right now. Just because of what the dollar is doing. There has been opportunity day to day, which maybe you guys have taken advantage of it. Me personally, I haven't had a whole lot of time to like really dial in and focus on trading just because I'm traveling so much. My routine is all out of whack this year. Well, ever since the payout, my routine's out of whack. So I was locked in from like January all the way up until May, just nonstop grinding, trading, not traveling whatsoever. I think maybe we took 1 or 2 trips, but since then, I've kind of been all over the place. My wife's looking at me like she's tired. So this is interesting. I think, maybe we're going to get a deeper retracement on the dollar. So we have this inverted fair value gap now, where maybe we're going to get a slight bit of a bounce on the pound. But I don't really know where the dollar is going to stop. I'm just assuming that at some point maybe it's going to take internal range liquidity and then turn around. So maybe one of these fair value gaps, maybe it's going to trade back down to here and then turn around. But this market is still creating higher lows and higher highs. So just for the fact that we took out this high does not necessarily mean that we're going to see a major reversal yet, right? Maybe we're just going to trade lower, put in a higher low somewhere over here, and then continue higher. So let's see if we got any questions. Can I do gold? I talked about this last week. My analysis on gold, you guys got to take it with a grain of salt because I'm not a gold trader. So my opinion on gold shouldn't really make a difference for you. If you want to be an expert in a specific asset, you should be the expert, not me, right? So, you're probably better off asking a gold trader where they think gold is going to go. Right now, the gold looks like a total mess since the end of October. So I wouldn't even touch this market, right? Just from a quick view, like you need to find a market that really makes sense, where it stands out to you, where the market's going to try and trade to. Guys, please don't spam the chat. I see your question. Yes, you can be profitable with a 50% win rate. You can be profitable with a 30% win rate. In fact, Richard Dennis, one of the turtle traders, if you guys don't know, I think it's called Way of the Turtle. Let me just look up the book on Amazon. He did an experiment where he picked up like 10 to 20 traders and taught him his system. And his system really was, their win rate was extremely low. Let me just find his book. Oops. Way of the Turtle, the secret methods that turned ordinary people into legendary traders. So Richard Dennis, his system only produced a 20% win rate, but he was a multi-millionaire. So win rate doesn't really affect your trading too much, to be honest, guys. You can have a very, very low win rate and still do really, really well in the markets. For me, this trade would have been a win had I not overmanaged it. But can I go back in time and really, I guess, change the decision that I made? No, I'm just going to live and die by the decision that I made. So I adjusted the stop loss. I think it was a decent place to adjust my stop loss. It's just the market, again, right? Going back to the analogy that I shared with you guys last week, the market is like a bus, right? And you're trying to get to a destination, and you're trying to get on a bus, right? But it makes a pit stop. The pit stop, right? It just stopped me out. I wasn't awake to re-enter the trade. Maybe I would have if I saw this hourly engulfing candle, or I just take my daily stop. So I took my daily stop. I lost like 2K across a couple accounts, and I just call it a day, right? Because what I don't want to do is get in the habit of constantly over trading and then taking losses bigger than I want to. So let's say if I'm going to risk 1R on the day and I lose 1R and I go back in the market, is that following my rules? No. Because what happens if you take a 2R loss? Then you're really going to feel bad about it because you should have stepped away from the market and followed your rules. Gold is just chopping right now. And, there's good reason for that. Yeah, there's no NFP today, guys. The government shutdown is like really throwing a wrench in everything. So the NFP was supposed to come out today, but it is not. So, it makes things a little bit trickier. So right now, Euro is continuing to push higher. If you guys didn't position during London session, you would have just missed out on these trades, right? I did take a loss here as well on the Euro because I wanted to see it continue trading lower, but obviously I was trading down too far into deep of a discount, and I got stopped out there. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? I was able to take advantage of this trade here as the market was trading lower, and then got stopped out here, right? So I wanted to see this hourly fair value gap hold. I entered short, sat in the trade for a very long time, and then when it turned around, I adjusted my stop loss to a half-hour risk, and I got stopped out. And then it just completely turned around. And then I haven't touched it since. So we got a nice 4-hour engulfing candle here on the dollar. So I can see this thing continuing lower today, which should send some of these markets higher. But when you look at like New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar, right, they're kind of not in sync. Right, so when you see Euro pushing higher like this, you want to see Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar trading higher as well. But these markets are a bit out of sync, right? Let me measure out this range here from this high to this low. So we are in a bit of a premium on the dollar. So we'll see if this thing ever gets to the candle up here that doesn't have a wick. If this thing closes bearish like this, maybe we're going to trade all the way down to here, to this candle that doesn't have a wick. So very interesting. With Euro, you have to keep your risk kind of tight just because the dollar is just chopping around. Rashid, brother, I can see all of your questions. Yeah, demo is helpful for learning risk management, but nothing replaces live trading. Beginners risk 1%. It depends on what your drawdown limit is. If you're trading with a prop firm that only has like a 3.5% max drawdown, you can't trade 1%. So if I was trading a funding ticks account and they only give me 3 to 3.5% drawdown, I would rather risk a 0.25%. Because with a 0.25%, you're only getting like 14 trades, 15 trades, I think. No, 14 trades. That's not a lot when you think about it. For me, 14 trades is not a lot. You're probably going to take 14 trades in a month. But this is all very personal, right? For me, I can afford to blow some accounts. So what I typically do is just try and get funded as fast as possible. But I don't recommend that for beginners. I traded for over 10 years before I touched my first prop firm account. Right? That gap in experience between maybe some of the viewers right now is huge, right? 10 years before I touched a prop firm account. Some of you guys are just starting out in trading and just starting out in prop. Yeah, there's no NFP today. Yeah, I'm not a gold trader. And even if I was a gold trader, I would tell you not to trade it. Because look at this. There's nothing going on here. This is a barcode. Do you want to trade this? Go right ahead. This here is account blown territory. Because most people don't know how to sit still when all of this is going on. They're just long, short, long, short, long, short, because they don't know which direction is going. When I don't know which direction is going, I don't do anything. I don't trade that market. US 30 is probably going to be the same analysis that I have on NASDAQ. Right? How many months in a row has it been up? Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 months straight up. And we've already taken out buy side liquidity. So I think going into the end of the year, maybe we're going to target 45,400. Maybe take out some of these lows. Unless this thing really turns around and continues pushing higher. But I think trying to lean heavily long when the market is already very high can be risky. So right now we've taken out the previous day's low. Again, it's Friday, guys. I usually don't trade a lot on Fridays, and that's probably why you're not going to see me take a lot of trades on stream, is because I'm taking trades throughout the week, and I'm walking you guys through the thought process. Right? I don't want you just to be on here to copy trades from me. You're not going to learn that way. You're not going to learn just from watching people trade. Because trading is just like sports. I can tell you what to do. Let's say I'm a golf instructor. I can tell you how to swing a golf club. Does anything replace you going to the range, going to the course, and swinging the golf club? It doesn't. You're going to be terrible. And if you copy trade people, you're going to continuously be uncomfortable taking trades because you're trying to follow somebody else. Nothing is going to replace you actually going in the markets and taking your own trades and doing your own analysis. How to build a bias. Well, first of all, you have to have a checklist. Is the market making higher lows or higher highs? Is the market respecting the levels that you're wanting to expect? So let's say if you're bullish, you don't want to see it go through the low and then chop sideways. That's usually an indication that it's just going to continue lower. What you're looking for is a strong rejection. So when the market's bullish and we take out lows, you're looking for strong rejections for it going higher. So like when we took out this low here, and we got this massive candle here, that's what you're looking for. Right? So it goes through the low, but it doesn't close through the low. And then it just completely turns around. And then we have all this liquidity up here that's built up that you would target. And then a lot of this, I don't even think I would find a trade in any of this because it's just going higher and higher and higher. And it's hard to find an area where the market retraces to a level where I can, logically put a stop loss. Somebody's asking, when do you toggle on SET? To be honest, I don't even look at any of that. I don't even know what that is. What's the best entry on NASDAQ? Me is I don't have an entry on NASDAQ right now. My entry was last night, but I got stopped out. But because the market's already expanded lower, I'm not going to chase it lower. How do I determine that I'm burnt out and need a break? I don't know. Just overall tired when I get in front of the charts. Like I lack the enthusiasm to actually be in front of the markets too often. And I don't know. I feel like I still haven't had a real break. Which, going into the end of the year, I'm probably not going to be doing a whole lot in December. This is usually going into like Thanksgiving and then December is usually a good time to reset and trade, take things very slowly going into the end of the year, kind of wrap your year up and then plan for next year. That's basically what I did this past year, right? So the previous year, Thanksgiving and then December, I didn't trade a whole lot. So when I came to the charts in January, February, March, April, May, I was on top of it. Like I was excited to wake up and go look at the charts and look at the markets. But right now, I just am lacking that excitement. Maybe I have a lot of other projects going on. I'm running multiple businesses. My wife's helping me with a lot of those businesses, and it's just a lot to juggle. I don't have an entry right now on NASDAQ. The market has already moved towards my target. And the risk to reward is, in my opinion, out the window now. Can it go lower? Yes, it can absolutely go lower. So you take a trade and it comes to your entry after some time. What risk reward should I follow? That has nothing to do with risk reward. That just has to do with you being comfortable watching it come back to your entry and having a logical stop loss. Right? Because here, if my stop loss was just a little bit higher, you guys can see here, if I just put my stop loss a tiny bit higher, this market would have come back to my entry. And you just have to get comfortable with that because the market doesn't move in a straight line. And you can't control if you enter a trade that's going to go straight in your direction. Okay, you have to, this is part of the experience that you just have to get comfortable with it because it's going to do it a lot. You're going to experience it, every single month. Maybe every single week you're going to experience it. You're going to enter a trade and it's going to come back to your break-even point. And it's how you manage the trade, right? Do you adjust the stop loss too fast? Me, I probably adjusted my stop loss too fast. Is there anything wrong with doing that though? No, right? I'm just going to sit with that decision because I made the decision in the moment. And that's trading. You have to make decisions in the present, right? You have to be very present with what you're trying to do in the markets. And I'm very present right now saying that I'm not going to take another trade because I already lost on that trade. And it's already moved in the direction I want it to move. So why would I want to enter it, try and get this last little bit going towards my target when the risk is elevated? What's my max loss per week? I don't necessarily have like a percentage or amount that I want to lose per week. If I lose like 3 or 4 trades in a row, I'll typically just call it a week because I know that I'm not in sync. And usually even after 2 trades, if I take 2 losses in a row, usually I'm taking the 3rd day off. How was my Ninja Trader competition? I think I ended in the top 50. Let me just take a look. I think I ended or at least my qualifier. So I didn't trade the other qualifiers. Let's see. Yeah, I ended at 48, which for that qualifier, there's 10,000 traders in it. To me, it's pretty good. And then I'm trading for the championship. Dude, guys, I don't know if you guys are slow or what. I've talked about gold. Look at your gold chart. Is there any bias going on here? This is a completely sideways market. It's just a barcode. There's no direction here. So I'm not trading gold. That's my bias. My bias is flat. And just because you're a gold trader and you want to trade gold doesn't mean you should be trading gold. You should be waiting until you have a really great setup on gold that makes a whole lot of sense. Otherwise, you're just gambling. Which one do I recommend, partials or break even? That's a personal thing. Sometimes I'll partial if I don't feel confident that the market is going to continue, but usually I don't partial. Most of the time I'm not partialing. When I do partial, I'm already up like 2 or 3 R. And I don't really go to break even that often. But yeah, gold, in my opinion, is dead right now. We came back to 4K, and it's just been chopping around. NASDAQ, it's already gone too low for me to re-enter, unfortunately. And if it continues going lower, it's going to have to go lower without me. I'll just wait for another trade. No, I got stopped out of NQ. Somebody's asking if I'm in an NQ short. I was in an NQ short, and then I adjusted my stop loss too tight. I took a point. I think it's a 0.3 loss. No, 0.25. So I lost a 0.25 R on this trade. So if somebody's asking me how do I enter positions and hold over a day, you just close it and reopen it. So let's say if I went short yesterday during the PM session, and then let's say I went short here, and then it went down here, and then it closed here on the day. If you just re-enter the position, close the position at 4, reopen it at 6, there's a very small gap here. You basically haven't left the trade, right? So if you close the position and just reopen it with your stop loss in the same spot, it's basically like it's basically like you never left the trade. Right? That's how you trade around not being able to hold overnight. You just close it and reopen it. No, my risk is dynamic, so I don't risk the same amount on every trade. When I feel very, very confident about a trade, I'll size up, knowing that my 1R loss might be bigger than it typically is. And if I take a loss, then I slow down. Right? I don't try and make it back. I don't overtrade and revenge trade. That is a very dangerous area to be in mentally. How do I know if Monday or Sunday open is likely to keep running lower or higher? It's honestly based on the weekly closures. Everything I do is coming off of the higher time frame. So if we get a strong weekly closure here, I'm just expecting it to maybe trade higher next week to start, and then position myself somewhere inside of the wick for it to continue lower. If it's going to continue lower next week, I don't know that. Guys, silver, you guys are asking me to look at markets that I don't trade, unfortunately. This is also a barcode. Does any of this look high probability? Like, get off of the low time frames and look at where we are in the range. This thing hasn't moved since the third week of October, really. Yes, there is opportunity short term to trade it, but again, for me, I'm looking for bigger, larger moves, like really big swing moves where it's very obvious which direction it's trying to go. So I'm not a short time frame trader. I will trade the lower time frames only when the high time frame makes sense and it really jumps out. But if it's not jumping out to me and I don't really have a good indication of where it's going to go, I'm just assuming that it's going to stay within the consolidation. Gold, man, I don't know if you guys are like brainless, but I've talked about it at length. To me, there's nothing going on here. If you want to gamble and trade these sideways markets, you might as well go to the casino and just deposit your money. And for me, I know personally that more often than not, I lose money on Fridays. So I don't typically trade Fridays. Usually the only times when I'm active on Fridays is when we have NFP. Brainless? Yeah, I mean, you guys can feel offended if you want, but trading is not easy. Like, you have to use your brain. You have to think logically. You have to make decisions on your own. And if you're the type of trader or person that is constantly looking for other people to make decisions for you, you know, you're going to have a very hard time in life in general. Do I trade minis? Yes, I trade minis. When I was trading Apex, though, I was trading micros. I was trading like anywhere from 3 to 10 micros, which, 10 micros is a mini. Abdullah. I mean, I'm keeping it real, guys. I'm trying to keep it real. And you have to be able to think with logic, right? Don't just come to the markets and be a robot and try and follow what everybody else is doing. You're never going to learn. Don't ask me what my analysis is on gold when I'm not a gold trader. What's your analysis on gold? What do you see? That's your experience. Your experience comes from you doing it on your own. For me, I can personally tell you, when I look at this market, I don't know what the hell is going on. It's up, down, up, down, up, down. It's not really doing anything. It's just a barcode. It's stopping people out. It's getting people like you guys that want to trade gold. It's getting you to trade in the market. This is getting you to trade in the market. But guess what the big players are doing? They're not doing anything. Yeah, Abdul, long gold. Yeah. I can mess with my students. I have some of my students in the chat. I know Abdullah. Bro, go long gold. Show these people how it's done. Yeah, I mean, my opinion was short on NASDAQ. That was my opinion. I wanted to see it trade towards these lows down here. That was my opinion. But again, I just didn't manage the trade properly. Or maybe I did manage the trade properly, because I think 9 times out of 10, I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have adjusted my stop loss to reduce my risk there. Because on a Friday, I don't trust that it's going to continue lower like this. But it saves me. Do I look for SMT? Not really. I know what SMT is. Like, I do look for it, but not like actively. Do I have a max loss limit on weekly and monthly? No, not really. My max losses and my losing streaks, they really just come from where I am mentally. Like, where is my mental space? So, like, when I take a gauge of where my mental health is and how I feel about trading, that's usually when I like put my foot on the gas or take my, step on the brakes. But yeah, to be honest, I haven't had my foot on the gas for months. I've done decently well. Like, I haven't had a losing month. I just haven't outperformed. Like, the last 2 weeks, I'm up probably 8R, which is, I think, respectable. 8R over the last 2 weeks is, it's pretty good. I could have done better, though, taking advantage of the trades that I was in. That's the thing. Is, yes, there were some trades where I was making 1, 2R, sometimes 3R. But on that trade that ended up being a 3R winner, I could have done something differently that paid me out more than 3R. Like, I could have scaled in. I could have adjusted my stop losses a little bit better. But that's part of trading. It's constantly trying to improve and get better. Somebody says, Abdullah, you suck. Hey, man, that's my student. Don't be mean to him. He's a good trader. Would I sell AU? Not for the time being. I think dollar still has room to run lower. Now, the last hour, I think is interesting because we don't have a wick above this hourly candle. And usually when the market pushes lower like this without wicks, it makes me very nervous. So when we have candles that don't have wicks, it makes me nervous because that becomes susceptible to being traded to and ran out. I'm looking at AU. Yeah, I don't know. From where we are trading towards the low end of this range, but the dollar makes it very hard to read where it's trying to go. And I may sound like a broken record since you guys have been watching me on stream, but this price action here from April all the way up until now is not like what we saw back here. Like, all this price action over here, in my opinion, is much easier to trade than what we're seeing currently. Like, here, after we've ran out this low, then we have all this liquidity up here. I just need to have a proper target, and I need to see the market, like, where it's trying to go. Up here, I was leaning long on the euro. But after we've ran lower and taken out a lot of sell-side liquidity, it's really just been sideways. And this is the uncomfortable part of trading that people just can't get a grasp of, is that this, all of this price action, in my opinion, is much better to trade, right? When the market is actually responding to levels that you think it's going to respond to. And not like this. This is a very extended period of consolidation. Yes, there is some setups here and there, but it can be very difficult when the market is like sideways, right? And then we have COVID. Boom. COVID happens and it shakes things up. And then the market starts really moving around, right? This election year, boom, election, Trump goes into office, dollar takes a massive sell-off, right? So we need some catalysts behind what's going on right now. There's no catalyst, right? The government shut down. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it makes markets harder to trade. I like when there's a macro narrative behind why a market should be moving. Okay, stop asking about gold, guys. Stop asking about gold. I don't know where gold is going. When you look at this market, it is just sideways. You guys are really annoying me. Do I look at just one trade to pass a challenge or multiple trades? This is a personal thing. All right. If you have the money to get through I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't be over leveraging or full porting, but some people, they full port just so they get to the funded account. And then once you're on the funded account, then trade normally. I'm not going to recommend that. If you're trying to, because here's the thing, is if you don't have a skill set and you just full port it to pass the challenge, and then you're full porting the funded account, you don't really have a plan going into it. You're just gambling, okay? But if you're moving in a smart way where you can say, okay, I can lose X amount of challenges and financially be able to withstand it. Because for me, I can go out and blow hundreds of challenges right now and try and get funded. But once I'm funded, I slow down and I trade like a real trader, like a real professional, okay, with proper risk management and try and build up a buffer. But if you can't afford the challenge, right, and you're already stretching your finances thin, then you should not be full porting the accounts. Which pairs do I trade? Euro, NASDAQ, and ES, mostly. I usually don't step out of those three assets. That's all I need. I don't need to trade anything else, to be honest. The spread's available. Well, funding. Are you asking me about funding pips or funding ticks? Let's see. Funding pips, I believe that they're pretty decent. Maybe, 1 to 2 pips on euro. So you're using the ICT 2022 model as a foundation, combined with different PD arrays and entry models. It's profitable, but my psychology is messing with you. Do I have any advice for that? That's a very personal question. The whole reason, let's say if you're going to see a shrink, right? The whole reason a shrink is there is to learn about your personal issues. I don't know what your personal issues are. What is your financial status? Are you in the right space mentally? Do you have another full-time income that you can rely upon? Is there too much pressure? Like, do you get in fights easily? Are you easily angered? Do you have impatience? Are you impulsive? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself, right? Trading is a mirror. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I an impatient, impulsive person? Or am I easily angered, right? Do I have a short temper? To be honest, guys, I had all of those things. And I had to work at them over the course of years. So if I knew I was impulsive, I had to wait patiently. If I knew I got angered easily and I had a short fuse, I have to catch myself in the moment. So when I get angry, like last night when I get stopped out and I see the market going towards my target, I want to throw my laptop through the window. I think earlier in my career, I probably would have thrown my laptop through the window and we wouldn't be on stream right now. But I can't transfer that experience to you. I can tell you how I worked through it. And it's basically just me being comfortable seeing that happen, right? Yes, I still get angry. I'm frustrated, yes, but I manage it much better than I used to. Right? I'm not slamming my fist against the desk because I got stopped out. I'm comfortable with it, okay? And I'm comfortable with the decisions that I make in the market because I know that there's going to be another opportunity next week or tomorrow or, another day, blah, blah, blah. The market goes on and on and on and is going to be here. It was here long before we ever started trading, and it's going to be here long after we're gone. Impatience has been your biggest problem since you started trading. Same here, man. Same here. I was very impatient with my trades, and it took a lot of data analysis and a lot of self-reflection to realize that, because I would see myself entering a position. Let's say I entered this position all the way back here, and it was a bearish engulfing candle. And let's say I planned a very large swing trade, and I put my stop loss above this candle's high, and I was targeting a 5R. What would happen is I would see the market turn around on me, and then I would go long. And then I would see it turn around on me and go short. And maybe it went in a little bit of profit. I closed it early. And then it got down here, and I tried to go long, and then it's over time. Well, this is a different scenario because it kind of just went straight lower. But let's just say it kind of chops around on you a bit, and you're constantly taking poor trades. And then at the end of this cycle, like going back to your trades, and let's say I took this trade, and then all in between, I took 10 to 15 trades because I was impatient and I was going long, short, and my P&L just kept gradually going lower and lower, right? Whereas if I just placed that one trade up here and had the patience to hold it to the target, you know how much less stressful that is? And you know how much patience I gained through that process? Like entering in a trade and being okay going to sleep at night. How many of you guys can enter a trade and hold it overnight and be comfortable with it? Or do you enter a trade and you hold it overnight and then all of a sudden you're up all night doing this, staring at your phone all night? And then you realize 6 hours passes and the market hasn't done anything, right? It hasn't gone to your stop loss and it hasn't gone towards your target. What could you have done in the meantime? You could have actually gone to sleep and had quality sleep, right? Some of my biggest trades were when I placed a trade overnight and went to sleep and didn't even think about it. I slept like a baby. And I woke up to multiple tens of thousands of dollars in my account. Because I can't control what that market is going to do. I just have to place my entry, place my stop loss, place my target, and be comfortable and patient with the trade. I know that the market is going to do what it has to do. I don't know how it's going to trade to my target. I don't know that. I would guarantee 90% of traders out there would do much better if they could enter their trade and all of a sudden teleport to either their stop loss or their take profit. How much easier would trading be if you could do that? Because trading is just a numbers game and it's a probability game. How much better would your trading be if you didn't have to withstand and sit in markets that go up and down and up and down and up and down and is driving you crazy? Right? How much better would your trading be if you could just eliminate human error? I would say 90% of traders that are failing right now would become profitable if they could do that. By just removing human error. Because a lot of times, it's human error. Because the way that I look at markets is that I'm just looking at the price. It's going up and it's going down. Does the market want to pay me or does it not? Do I adjust my stop losses when I should be or shouldn't I? And if it takes me out, I'm comfortable with it because I know there's another opportunity. And that's how you manage your emotions. And that way your emotional volatility isn't spiking on both ends of the spectrum. Because when your emotional volatility goes from extreme excitement to extreme sadness and depression, your trading is all over the place. It shows up in your P&L, right? Whereas if you're very calm, cool, and collected, even for me, like, again, earlier in my career, I probably would have thrown this laptop and smashed it into a million pieces. But I'm going to remain calm and just do something else. Yeah, it's a human error. Yeah, it's a beast, man. It's a beast. Learning what your demons are is honestly the secret to trading. How confident am I that I'm always going to make money from trading? I'm very confident now. I'm very confident because I know when to put my foot on the gas and when not to. You know, I'm not in the markets every day swinging for the fences. Because again, when you're in the markets every day swinging for the fences, it takes a toll on you emotionally. You can't keep that up forever. You go through waves and cycles of it. Okay, so there's periods. This has happened to me every year since I went full time. There are periods in a year where I'm swinging for the fences. I'm not swinging for the fences as far as risk, but I know that I'm trying to be very active in markets. And then there's periods throughout the year where I just don't even want to trade. Like, there's some months where, like, I'll place a trade just so I don't get rusty, but I'm not really trying to do too much. I'm just trying to survive it. What do I think about traders who believe their edge will fade over time? And this is the thing, is that the edge is not in the strategy, guys. It's in the trader. The markets are always going to be moving up and down. And if something stops working, guess what profitable traders do? They just adapt. Because at the end of the day, the best strategy is risk to reward and probability. If you can master those two things, well, risk to reward, understanding the probabilities, and psychology, those three things will take you much farther than any strategy is going to. Because I could share my strategy with 100 traders. How many of those 100 traders are going to be able to be successful with it? I would say 80 to 90% of them have psychological issues and they can't follow the rules. The thing with trading is, like, people want to break rules. Like, I just think from a human standpoint, people like breaking rules and they like going against the grain. Because trading in itself is like a profession where you kind of are going against the grain. That doesn't mean you should take that same mentality with your rules and go against the grain with that. All right, trading is a profession where, it attracts a lot of people that are unemployable, right? They can't go work for somebody else. So you're breaking a rule there. You're going against the grain. But that does not work in trading. You can't go against the grain when it comes to your processes and your rules and your patience. How to adapt. I mean, it comes with experience, because if you don't have the experience to know when to adapt, you don't know what to do. Like, think about these professional athletes. If something in the game changes and the other team starts playing super aggressively, and they've experienced that before, right? They've already been in a game where another team plays extremely aggressively and they know how to combat that. Versus you, when the other team starts playing super aggressively and you don't know what to do, you don't know which decision is the right one. Okay, so maybe you make the wrong decision, but the biggest thing is that you learn from it. I've been in organized sport for a long time now, and it's interesting because you see these athletes, right? Let's just say it's a soccer player, or for me, paintball, right? Some people are just uncoachable because of their ego, right? They think they know everything, and then it limits them because they can't learn from the experiences where they should be learning. Right, so let's say if you make a mistake on the field or on the court and you don't learn from that experience for the next time, you're basically uncoachable. All right, so if you make a mistake, let's say the market is really trading aggressively and you don't know how to adapt to that. Well, you should learn how to adapt, or you should learn from that experience to know how to adapt in the future. Like, okay, maybe the market's trading really aggressively, so I size down. Right? That's an adaptation. But in the moment, if you don't have the experience, you don't know if that's the right decision to make. You don't know if you should be sizing down. You have to go through that process. Everything is experience. Everything is experience. I've been trading for 14 plus years. Do you think that somebody can come in with 1 year of experience and out trade me? Long term. I'm talking about long term. Over the course of a whole year, do you think somebody with 1 year of experience can out trade somebody that has 14 years of experience? Maybe. But that might be luck, not their proficiency in trading. The quadrants theory? No, I have no idea what that is. I try and keep my trading simple and don't get caught in the loop of always trying to find new things. Let's put it this way. Is you learning something new going to change the probability of the next trade that you take? If I go long or short right now because I learned something new yesterday, does that change the probability of the market going higher or lower? No, that to me is already predetermined in the future. Me learning something new, let's say I spend a whole month learning macroeconomics. Yes, maybe it's going to add a little bit of knowledge on my end, but when I place that next trade, it's not going to make the market go up or down. The market's going to go up or down regardless if I understand macro or not. Right? So get yourself out of that hamster wheel where you're constantly learning and just focus on executing. I spent way too long going from new concept to new concept to new concept to new concept. So now I have a lot that I can work with, but did it really add that much of an edge to my trading? I would say it didn't. You know what added the most edge to my trading was just executing in the markets and experiencing losses and experiencing wins and experiencing me adding to my positions and taking stop losses and adjusting my stop losses to remove risk. That alone is much more important than learning a new concept. So here right now, NQ is struggling to push lower. Again, to me, it's Friday. I don't know if it's going to get to the target. I don't have an entry right now. When I look at dollar, I don't want to touch it either. But because we have this very large up close candle, maybe we trade lower down into here to start the week, and then next week we can resume longs. That's just my anticipation. So if this weekly candle closes bullish, I'll probably be leaning bullish. If dollar index closes bearish, I'll probably be leaning bearish down to this candle that doesn't have a wick. But it's all up in the air right now. Server side stops? I don't know. I don't know what that means. My stops are placed with the broker, and it's up to the broker to fill it or not. If there's no liquidity, then your order's not going to get filled. Although with props, it's probably going to get filled 9 times out of 10. Or 10 times out of 10. Because it's not on the live feed. What's going on in gold? You guys are unbelievable, man. There's nothing going on in gold. I'm not even going to look at the chart anymore. What do you see going on in gold? If you're trying to find something to look at in gold, that means you don't know what's going to go on. You have no idea what's going on. If you're asking other people what's going on in gold, you have no idea. And guess what you should do when you have no idea? Guess what you should do when you have no idea where the market's going to go? Take a guess. Do you trade? Do you trade or sit still and find another market that makes sense? See, some of you guys are not comfortable sitting out of a market for weeks on end. That's what's required of a profitable trader, is that sometimes we just don't know where it's going to go. But guess what we're not doing is we're not going in there and just taking random shots in the dark, trying to find a setup because we want to make money. Right? You're basically closing your eyes and throwing a dart at a dartboard that's 50 yards away. What are the chances of you hitting it with your limp hand? Your non-dominant hand. You got this limp hand. You're like trying to throw a dart on a dartboard that's 50 yards away. What are the odds of you hitting it? That is a low probability trade. And if you have to ask other people online what their opinion is, you have no idea what you're doing. And just be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, because that's how you're going to improve. You're not going to improve by saying you're a gold trader and then finding some person online, figuring out what their bias is, because opinions are worth nothing. Your other people's opinions of a market should not mean anything, right? Do I care that Michael Burry is trying to short NQ? I don't care. You know what happened to me when I leaned on other people's opinions of markets and I went in the direction that they were trying to go in? Guess what happens when you take a loss? You don't blame yourself. You blame the other person. So you don't learn anything. You're using that other person as a scapegoat. So you don't learn from that experience because you're the one that decided to click the button, not them. They just gave you an opinion of a market. So if I told you guys gold is going to 3K, I'm not forcing you to click the button and trade. That's on you, right? Are we doing any giveaways? I don't think so. Not today. But I'm gonna hop off, guys. You guys already have my analysis. I think NASDAQ is going to continue lower, and if it does, I would not be surprised to see this market trade lower down here. I just personally don't have a trade. I got stopped out. I ate the stop loss. It's probably going to go to my target. I'm probably going to feel frustrated about it. And I'm going to come back next week and do the same thing. So how do I deal with my ego when my bias turns out to be wrong and you need to completely flip? You just don't let your ego get in the way of it. But that, again, came with experience. You know how that happened is because I was so egotistical about markets, is that I would have a very strong opinion. I would go in again, and I would get steamrolled, and I would get angry. And part of that is just being humbled by the markets so many times that it changes the way you think. It changes the way you think about markets and that you don't know everything. And Mark Douglas has said this many times. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You don't need to know where the market's going next to make money. You don't. You just take an educated guess, manage your risk, and where it goes, it goes. All right, you take your hands off the wheel and let the probabilities and your risk management play out. That's it. Right? That's all profitable trading is you submitting to the uncertainty of markets. So I know, again, my live sessions is not just me trading. I'm sharing with you guys over a decade of experience and how I was able to improve, because I was probably the worst trader on the face of the earth. Now I could probably claim that I'm maybe the best trader in the retail in the retail prop space. Although Lanto is coming for my crown. I don't know. He just did $1 million in 2 days. But it honestly all comes down to experience. Like, the 10 years of experience that I had prior led me to the position that I am in today. There was no shortcut for me whatsoever. I was looking for shortcuts. I thought I saw shortcuts. I thought I saw things that would give me a shortcut. Like, oh, this new concept, this new shiny thing is going to give me a shortcut. But the harsh reality is that there's no shortcuts. Nobody's going to sit in front of the charts with you. Nobody's going to put in the reps with you. Unless you're like in a trading group. But even then, if I'm sitting next to somebody, they're backtesting, I'm backtesting. Let's say the person next to me backtests 500 setups and I backtest 250. That doesn't do anything, right, for either of us. The guy next to me is getting more experience because he's doing it on his own. Yeah, he could tell me about the 250 additional backtest setups that he did. Okay, that's great. But what does that do for my trading? I still have to go in and catch up and do 250 reps to catch up to where he is. Right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. You guys asked a good amount of questions. Some of you guys asked some stupid questions. But that's part of trading, right? I'm trying to, if I were next to a lot of you guys, I would probably smack you over the head and be like, focus on what actually matters. Okay. Stop asking about markets that are sideways. Because when you take a look at some markets and it's not doing anything and you're blind and you have no idea which way it's going to go, you don't trade it. You don't trade that market. Or simple as that. And if you can't look at a market and determine that it's not going anywhere and not trade, guess what? You guys have a discipline problem. You are not disciplined enough or patient enough to not trade that market. You're looking for action all the time. And that is not profitable trading. So I'm going to be the bearer of bad news for you guys that gold is not going anywhere right now. I would not trade gold. I wouldn't touch it with a 100-foot pole. And it's on you to be disciplined or not. Listen to the stream. If you're mad that I didn't give you a bias and you're going to go in and trade and lose money, that's on you, man. You should learn from that experience, though. If you want to go in and trade gold because you're a gold trader, all right, whether it's a win or loss, just in my eyes, you're gambling, okay? Don't look at the P&L. Even if you have a win in that market, I chalk that up as luck and not professionalism, okay? This is not a casino, all right? If you want to go to a casino, go to Vegas and deposit your money because they will willingly take your money, all right? Just like the markets will willingly take your money when you're trading improperly. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and yeah, I'll see you guys all next week, all right? Later.